months following the Normandy invasion of June 1944, U.S. and British forces swept across Europe, forcing the German army into a long and bloody retreat. Bold strategy steered the rapid advance, and historic supply operations sustained it. Among those most responsible for keeping fast-moving units supplied over long distances was U.S. 1st Army Quartermaster Colonel Andrew T. McNamara, who would become one of the most decorated quartermasters in U.S. history. Andrew Thomas McNamara was born in East Providence, Rhode Island in 1905, the same year Ty Cobb began his legendary baseball career. It was an auspicious sign, for if anything set young Andy McNamara apart, it was his love of baseball and team play. Andy's leadership abilities caught the attention of the organizer of the city's playground sports program, who suggested that Andy apply to West Point. At West Point, his organization and leadership skills set him apart, skills that would be the hallmark of his military career. Logistics fascinated him. He attended the Quartermaster Subsistence School in Chicago, Illinois, and transferred to the Quartermaster Corps in 1937. And throughout his career, he encouraged everyone around him to understand the importance of logistics. In 1943, General Omar Bradley's First Army was in England preparing for the invasion of Europe, and he needed the best chief quartermaster he could find, and he looked to Colonel McNamara to fill that role. For Mac and his team, that meant obtaining, packing, and transporting everything needed by more than 500,000 troops, not just on D-Day, but over the months that followed. Fuel and support items for tens of thousands of vehicles, and a long list of other items that were no less crucial to success. There are many stories that illustrate Mac's logistics savvy. One such example took place in December 1944. 65 divisions of infantry, armor, and airborne were advancing along a front line that stretched 500 miles from the North Sea to Switzerland, and units under Colonel McNamara were supplying at least 12 of those divisions at a time. The Allies were stretched thin, and the Germans knew it. In a desperate effort to shatter the Allied advance, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt launched a savage counterattack. 2 panzer armies, a total of 11 divisions, poured across the wooded Ardennes Plateau in an attempt to push American units back. This was the Battle of the Bulge. Colonel McNamara quickly realized the situation. Without supply lines of their own, the German armored divisions were in desperate need of fuel. Mac redirected a fuel-laden supply train out of the path of the advancing panzers, then took personal charge of moving every cache of gasoline in the area. In a heroic effort, the 1st Army Infantry held the German columns at bay, while less than 2 miles away, Colonel Mac's team worked around the clock, manually evacuating more than 3 million gallons of fuel, all in 5-gallon cans in 72 hours, and at the same time, delivering crucial supplies to frontline troops. Within days, the fierce counterattack was literally running out of gas, and with the arrival of Allied reinforcements and air support, the Germans were soon retreating, abandoning many of their tanks and their last hopes for victory in the snow. For his various roles in the North African and European campaigns, Colonel McNamara was awarded the Bronze Star, the Distinguished Service Medal, and the Army Commendation Ribbon, and he continued to rise through the ranks of the United States Army and earn positions of increasing responsibility. In 1961, he was made Deputy Commanding General of the 8th U.S. Army stationed in Korea. His tour was cut short by a telephone call from Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. Mac was needed back in the States to serve as the first director of the new Defense Supply Agency, later to become the Defense Logistics Agency. The goal was to establish uniform and efficient procurement and distribution procedures across the board for all of the armed services, and a hand-picked staff of 100 built an agency from the ground up at the headquarters based out of Cameron Station in Alexandria, Virginia. The results of his leadership spoke for themselves. Within 18 months of opening its doors, the fledgling agency was managing 45 facilities and overseeing 11 field organizations, employing almost 17,000 people, consolidating procurement procedures, centralizing and simplifying distribution, shortening the supply chain of command, and eliminating redundant supply management activities among all the armed services. By the end of its first 3 years, DSA had reduced unnecessary inventory by almost $500 million and reduced annual supply operation costs by more than $40 million, all while dramatically improving service and responding to the changing needs of national defense. Still, it was only the beginning. And until the day he retired from the agency in 1964, he steadily built a legacy that has made today's Defense Logistics Agency a cornerstone of U.S. military readiness.